When it comes to the historical events surrounding Ashura and the martyrdom of Imam Hussein and his comrades, there is an unyielding energy that erupts from the Muslims every year in the month of Muharram. Homes will be decked with black and red flags, mosques will be full of scholars delivering sermons to the masses, and millions will take to the streets globally to commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. In order to understand why the events of Karbala and Ashura have such a profound impact on Muslims worldwide, it is imperative that we understand what actually took place over a millennium ago. What was the situation of the Ummah right after the Khilafat of Muawiyah ibn Sufyan? Why was it so necessary for the righteous Muslims to rise up against Yazid? Who was Muslim ibn Aqeel, and what were the events which paved the way for the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Holy Prophet? This is the Seminary Report. The events of Karbala come down to two binary opposites, Imam Hussein ibn Ali and Khalif Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Imam Hussein was a morally outstanding individual, according to both Sunni and Shia Muslims, bound to the Quran and the Sunnah of his grandfather, the Holy Prophet of Islam. Yazid, on the other hand, an ostentatiously sinful drunkard bound by no moral code, had at the time assumed the throne, effectively becoming the unquestioned, unchallenged authority over the Ummah. The Ummah at this time had been broken apart into various factions and groups. There was little unity. The Muslims had become so disconnected to the true message of the Holy Prophet that they were living their lives not by Islam but by immoral, materialistic and worldly motivations. With the Muslim Ummah in such a fragile and faithless state, an amoral man like Yazid would be able to obliterate Islam. Islam itself would have ceased to exist. While still in Mecca, Imam Hussein received the letters sent to him by the people of Kufa, requesting him to go there because they did not have an imam to guide them through the tumultuous sea of political, religious affairs that had overwhelmed the Muslim Ummah. They needed the imam to correct their religion and lead them against the tyranny of Yazid and his tribe, the Umayyads. Having been the capital of the Muslim Ummah during the Khilafat of Imam Ali, Kufa had become the hub and the last hope of defense for the Muslim Ummah, which was being torn apart from within. Imam Hussein received a total of as many as 12,000 letters. One of the letters stated, "The people are waiting for you. They accept no views other than yours, so hurry, O son of the Messenger of Allah." Imam Hussein sent a letter back stating, "I understand what you narrate. Therefore I have sent to you my brother and cousin, and the confidant of my Ahlul Bayt. So if he writes to me saying that your view is united with that of those of distinction and wisdom from among you, and in agreement with what your messengers and letters state, I shall, by the will of Allah, come to you very soon." He then handed this letter to Muslim ibn Aqeel, saying, "I am dispatching you to the people of Kufa. Once you get there, stay with the most trustworthy of its people." Thus Muslim left the company of Imam Hussein, and enduring harsh winds he barely made it to the city of Kufa on the 25th of Shawwal, where he stayed with Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, who was highly respected among the people and a formidable opponent of the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. In Kufa, the reception of the people was hospitable to say the least. The Shias went in hordes to meet Muslim in the house of Mukhtar and expressed their allegiance. A man stood and said, "By Allah, I shall respond to your call, and I shall fight your enemy." Another concurred, saying, "I feel exactly the same." And others also made similar statements. All in all, Muslim rallied as many as 18,000 men to the call of Imam Hussein, and according to some reports, there were as many as 40,000. Elated, Muslim ibn Aqeel sent a letter back to Imam Hussein stating, 18,000 Kufians have already come to me, so hurry and come here as soon as this letter reaches you. This was 27 days prior to Muslim's martyrdom. The rallying of the people against Yazid and his tribe, Bani Umayyah, had angered a group of the Umayyads with vested interests. Among them was Umar ibn Sa'd, a man known for his desire for worldly attractions. They wrote to Yazid warning him of the arrival of Muslim ibn Aqeel and the rallying of the people of Kufa behind him, adding that Al-Nu'man, the governor of Kufa at the time, was not fit to stand in Muslim ibn Aqeel's way. So Yazid dispatched Ibn Ziyad to represent him as the governor of Kufa. At this point, word had spread throughout the lands, and people were expecting Imam Hussein to come to Kufa in response to the letter of the Kufans. Taking advantage of this, the cunning Ibn Ziyad donned a humble black turban and Yemeni clothes, the type of garb that the Ahlul Bayt were recognized for. Thus, along checkpoints and at the city of Kufa's gates, people saluted him with cries of "Welcome, O son of the Messenger of Allah," mistaking him for Imam Hussein. In this way, Ibn Ziyad managed to reach the governor's mansion while evading the zealous loyalists of Imam Hussein. Upon reaching the mansion, however, a man recognized him and called out to the thronging crowds that he was not Imam Hussein, but in fact Ibn Ziyad in disguise. Whereupon the crowds dispersed and the people hurried home. Upon assuming the governorship of the court of Kufa, Ibn Ziyad delivered a sermon saying, "Anyone found to be sheltering one of those who scheme against the authority of the commander of the faithful, i.e. Yazid, and who does not hand him over, will be crucified on the door of his own house." At this point, Muslim ibn Aqeel took to the house of an old friend, Hani ibn Urwa, who was a dedicated Shia. Others who were still loyal to Imam Hussein also visited the house of Hani in secret, helping Muslim ibn Aqeel to gather intelligence and delivering funds in order to buy weapons for the uprising. But word slipped out. Hani was escorted to the court of Ibn Ziyad, where Ibn Ziyad brutally struck his face with his sword, breaking his nose and scattering the flesh from his cheeks and forehead before having him imprisoned. Upon hearing what had happened to Hani, Muslim ibn Aqeel hurried along plans for the uprising. 4,000 men assembled. After delegating the cavalry and infantry to their respective commanders, Muslim ibn Aqeel marched against the governor's mansion, where Ibn Ziyad had fortified himself within, with only a few henchmen at his beck. At this critical moment, had the Muslims truly united under Muslim ibn Aqeel, they would have successfully prepared the ground for the arrival of Imam Hussein, but the people of Kufa, despite having sworn allegiance to Muslim ibn Aqeel, would not prove loyal to their word. Little by little, the treacherous soldiers began to disband, their flags vanishing into the crowds of Kufa, until a mere 300 men remained alongside Muslim ibn Aqeel. Those inside the mansion called upon the people of Kufa, saying, "O Kufians, fear Allah, and do not expose yourselves to Syrian cavaliers, whose might you have already tasted, and whom you have already tested on the battlefield." Whereupon the 300 also dispersed, so much so that a man would come to his son, brother, or cousin and tell him to go home, and a wife would cling to her husband till he returned home. Betrayed, Muslim ibn Aqeel pulled back and retired to the Grand Mosque of Kufa to offer evening prayers with only 30 men. Then, as he walked through the dark streets, fewer and fewer Kufans remained loyal, until finally Muslim ibn Aqeel found himself walking utterly alone, stumbling through the streets and alleys of Kufa. Ibn Ziyad's henchmen were after him. Ascending the pulpit, Ibn Ziyad stated, "Muslim ibn Aqeel has caused the dissension and disunity, so there is no security henceforth to any man in whose house we find him. Anyone who captures him and brings him to us will be paid his blood money." The city was shaken with fear. Those who opposed Ibn Ziyad were either murdered or imprisoned. Mukhtar al-Thaqafi was among those who remained loyal to Muslim ibn Aqeel, and by default to Imam Hussein till the end. But Muslim ibn Aqeel was now truly alone. He took refuge in the house of a freed bondsmaid by the name of To'a, who gave to Muslim water, food and shelter. But her son was as treacherous as other Kufans, and he informed Ibn Ziyad of Muslim ibn Aqeel's whereabouts for a small price. Ibn Ziyad immediately dispatched a group of 70 men to arrest Muslim ibn Aqeel. Upon hearing the horses outside, Muslim ibn Aqeel completed his prayers and donned his battle gear, facing the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt. He fought hard against them, taking to the rooftops of Kufa, and according to some accounts, single-handedly killed as many as 41 of the men. Ibn Ash'ath, the commander of these spineless men, sent word back to Ibn Ziyad requesting reinforcements and stating, "Do you think that you sent me to fight one of Kufa's mere shopkeepers? Rather, you sent me to fight against one of the swords of the Prophet Muhammad." The fighting intensified, with reinforcements harrowingly assaulting Muslim ibn Aqeel in the streets of Kufa, while those who had sworn loyalty to him hid away in their homes with their families. Muslim was struck on the mouth, cutting his upper lip and breaking 2 of his lower teeth. The enemies attacked from all sides, taking to the rooftops and hurling stones at him. Muslim fought on, reciting, I swore not to be killed except as a free man. They continued to fire arrows and hurl rocks at him. His wounds were numerous and he was bleeding heavily. The Iraqi city was humid and thirst had overtaken him. Eventually, a man stabbed him in the back and he fell to the ground and was arrested and dragged to the court of Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad then ordered for Muslim ibn Aqeel to be taken to the top of the mansion and to be thrown to the ground. As Muslim was escorted, he continued to repeat, "O Allah, judge between us and the people who deceived, betrayed and lied to us." Then he faced Medina and sent his salam to Imam Hussein. He was executed by being pushed from the top of the mansion. He was then beheaded. His feet were tied to horses and dragged through the streets and marketplaces of Kufa, while the treacherous Kufans watched on. His head and the heads of those who had remained loyal were sent to Yazid. Yazid sent a letter to Ibn Ziyad stating, "You do not cease being the source of my delight. It has also come to my attention that Hussein ibn Ali has marched towards Iraq. You should therefore set up observation posts, prepare with arms, be cautious for mere suspicion, kill anyone who you suspect." Muslim ibn Aqeel and those handful of comrades who truly remained loyal to him proved their faith in the Book of Allah, the Holy Prophet and his Sunnah. But the Kufan people, through their fragile oaths and lack of fortitude, had effectively abandoned Muslim ibn Aqeel, a fallible representative of the Ahlul Bayt, and by default had abandoned the Imam of their time and Allah. They had sworn allegiance to Imam Hussein, recognizing it to be the path of righteousness, but when they saw that their well-being, their lives, their businesses and their families were threatened, they left Muslim ibn Aqeel to his fate and forfeited to Yazid and Ibn Ziyad's terrorizing schemes. The Kufans' weak faith and cowardice had not only cost them their own freedoms, but had effectively paved the way for the martyrdom of the grandson of the Holy Prophet and his true comrades.